All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the TO Show, man. I am really excited this week. Man, we have a fantastic guest, just like, honestly, a guest unlike any other this week. It's going to be probably one of my favorite guests to have on the TO Show here, definitely to get early. I know he's a very busy man. Before we dive into things, guys, don't be afraid to, if you like this content, don't be afraid to subscribe to the podcast, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the content. But let's dive into things, guys. And we have one of my favorite coaches, one of my favorite people on this earth, man, Coach Gattuso. Welcome to the TO Show. I am so glad to have you on, Coach. It is an honor to have you on. I know you're very busy, and it's awesome to be here with you, Coach.
I appreciate you having me. When you asked me to come on, I was excited about it, and I don't know what the heck you're going to ask me. It's not like I got any list of things, but I'm excited, and I'm never too busy for one of my players, whether it's present or past. That's something I've always believed in. And I'm excited to see you taking this. Someday I want to come on when you're a big famous star on your podcast on ESPN someday.
Oh, that would be sweet, Coach. You might be, if the gets us, up there, Coach. I think you might be the first one to get you on, because hopefully, man, after this one, we'll keep climbing the ropes here and keep growing. But Coach, as we dive into things here, Coach, coming to UAlbany, and let's talk a little bit about yourself, Coach, a little bit about your background and how you got to UAlbany, because I don't think a lot of people are familiar, with your background, and coaching is, very rigorous and very tough to get in the spot. You've got lucky to get in the spot and that you've been, and how have you got there, Coach, and just go along a little bit about your path.
I traditionally coaches are grad assistants and do all those kind of things. And I kind of took a different path to this level of football when, so I think internally on the team, that I was in law enforcement for 7 years out of college. I was a criminal justice major in college, and all I ever wanted to be was a chief of police somewhere, but I got sidetracked coaching high school football at Seton LaSalle, and that worked out really well, won a championship, and ended up got the Duquesne University job and left my gun and badge behind. And I just kind of luck would be it. I was just right time at right place with the right athletic director that was looking for someone like myself to take over the program. So, I've been very fortunate in my life to go from high school to college, and then to University of Pittsburgh with Dave Wanstead, and University of Maryland with Randy Edsel. And so I've been around great people and learned a lot from some really high quality football coaches, but probably more importantly, really high quality people. And when I had a chance to be a head coach again, this was just fantastic. Albany was just perfect for me to come to and to start trying to build this program, which I think we've all done a pretty decent job of, and hope to do better this year. But it's not your normal track, but it was an interesting track, and it's something, I'm proud of what I've done and excited about the future here.
So, Coach, when you originally took the job to UAlbany, what was something that stood out to you that made you, jump at the opportunity to be able to take this head coaching job? And, was there something specific, or was there multiple things that you kind of saw in Albany, not just from a first year basis, but down the road to where the success we had in 2019 and hopefully the success we're going to have this year?
When you think about how, I'm a big Malcolm Gladwell fan, and who's a writer. And I think he's, if you get a chance, you really want to help yourself in your career and your future, read some Malcolm Gladwell. And one of the books I really thought was really cool was it's about opportunities. It talks about, it shows you how people, it's not about intelligence or good looks or money or any of those things. It's really about taking advantage of opportunities. And when I was at Maryland, I thought I wanted to be a head coach again. And good fortune called because my good friend Bob Benson just happened to reach out to me and tell me that Coach Ford was going to retire. I had no idea the job was open. I would have never applied for this job if it wasn't for that phone call. And I got my resume and application literally the Friday before the Sunday deadline. So you talk about good fortune and being in the right place at the right time. So the thing that attracted me to Albany at first was just I really wanted to be a head coach again. I wanted to coach my own team. there's a certain way I think I want to treat people and players. And I was really excited about taking over a program again and coming to Albany. I'll never forget when I flew in, and Kathy Probst picked me up at the airport, and she brought me in that back way. And the first thing you see when you come on is the stadium. Yeah. And I was really lit up when I saw the stadium. I thought, you know what, this is really cool. This is what I've been looking for, a place to call home. And so I really, that was a really important thing to me. And then I met the people, guys like Charlie Volker, and at the time was Lee McElroy was the AD. And so I got to meet these great people, and I was just really sold on it. When I left my interview, I was like, I want this job. It was the people and the environment and that stadium. I think our stadium's really cool. I really like it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's very unique that our stadium kind of also, when we get the homecoming or even in the early games where all the college kids and on the berm, and then you got the club down below the scoreboard, and then the whole grandstand. I think that's something that's really cool, that especially when homecoming comes along where the stadium's full and you feel kind of the support of the community. I think that's something that really appeals to a lot of people and even fans to come in and say, hey, we're building something here, and we're going to try to reach out and grow the program. And I think that's awesome. And I think Coach, you've probably been the number one part of that, is growing, creating a culture and growing UAlbany to where it is today. But Coach, going a little bit to your philosophy and stuff, where there's a lot of probably people in Erie who are big Penn State fans. Coach, you're an alumni of Penn State, played football for Coach Joe Paterno. Where do you think you've kind of, is there a particular person that's kind of molded you to your coaching style, or has it just been a bunch of different people and good things you learn from the good things and the bad things and kind of just make it your own? Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think we all develop as you'll see as you get older. You had a great coach, and Coach Mishler, and I know you like big coaches for some reason. So but I've been super blessed with people in my life. Obviously I had a great family, mom and dad and brothers, and I had a great family. But when I got into sports, I had these people that were really instrumental, from my Dick Frank, my grade school coach, to my high school coach was Tom Donahoe, who later became, so he went from Seton LaSalle head coach to, he ended up in the NFL and was a GM with the Steelers and a GM with the Buffalo Bills. And, we're very close to this day. He's been a massive influence on me. Coach Paterno was a big influence in so many ways. It's one of the reasons why you don't see all this, I always talk to you guys about it. Your energy and your motivation comes from within the team. That's where that comes from. We never had signs up, and we never did, these crazy chants and all. I just, I think the really great football players I have been around, and the great football teams, which there's been many that I've been part of, they're self-motivated. They play because they love each other, not because they're trying to go to a game, win a game, or go to a bowl game. And they win because they care about each other, and they're great teammates. And that's what I want to build here is a team that goes out on the field every day and plays for each other and plays for their fans. And that's what I learned off of Coach Paterno. That was the Penn State way, and he was a big influence. But there's so many. I mean, Dave Wannstedt is one of the greatest human beings I've ever been around. He's a great football coach. He treats people really well. Randy Etzel's a friend, and Randy was probably the most organized human being. He reminds me of you. You smart guys that get all that analytics stuff. He taught me a lot of things about organization and structures. And so, yeah, you kind of take, as you get older. I'm 59 years old. When you are around good people, you're crazy not to absorb what they're telling you and utilize it in your life. And I've done that. I've done that with all the great people I've been blessed to be around.
I think that's so true. I think no matter what it is, for example, for me growing up, playing baseball, when I moved around, I had a bunch of different hitting coaches that taught completely different things. Cause in baseball, hitting, you don't see one way that people hit. They hit in a variety of different things. And I think as a baseball player, having different coaches teach me different things kind of molded me into having probably the best swing I could possibly have, because I took every little bit and piece that worked for me and used it for my game. And I think it's shown with you, coach. And I think that's super important. And I just don't think there's necessarily one way to do things. I think there's multiple ways to do things. And, I think sometimes we kind of get hard headed because we had success doing one thing. For example, Nick Saban talking about, well, college football's kind of changed. I got to recruit a little bit differently. I got to play a different style kind of, because, we're all evolving, for the better or the worse, and I think that's super important. And I think being a sponge, and we've talked to Jawan last week, and we talked to him, and he was talking about how he's just a sponge and soaking up every little thing from, what Julio Jones is telling him, or Calvin Ridley, or even just Matt Ryan, or all these little pieces to be a pro and just being that sponge. And I think, whether you're playing football, in the workforce, or doing whatever in life, I think soaking up as much information as you possibly can. I think that's one thing I'll take away from a lot of these places. And I think honestly, it's kind of helped me be the player today, because being a freshman and now today, I think I'm a completely different player by soaking up other information from Jawan or JR, or, even DMAC or people like that. I think that's super cool.
It's foolish. It's foolish not to be around great people and successful people, and not at least consider the way they do things. I've always liked guys to read. I want people to read books and to investigate things. Don't take anybody's word for it, or a newspaper or a reporter. Look into things. And when you're around people that are successful, they have a certain quality. And you're right. It's not always exactly the same. My way, the word guru, I always teach coaches and say, well, you're a guru because you know everything, but It's never about one way. It's about adapting and changing. Every single time we walk on the football field, every year we have a new team and a new chemistry and a new culture, no matter how many kids are back. So you're crazy not to take advantage of the great people around you. And they come in all shapes and forms. You never know when you're going to get a good tidbit that's going to help you move on. And, you might be shocked by this, but I do actually learn off of you guys sometimes too. Many times the players tell me something or say something to me in passing that I'll come in and talk to the coaching staff, because that's one of the things that I think coaches get locked, that hurt themselves, is they don't feel the pulse of their team, and they don't, I think the leadership council thing that we've done the last few years has been really, really huge for us, because it gives me a much better sense of how you guys are thinking or how you're interpreting things, because sometimes you might not interpret it the way I'm presenting it. So I really appreciate the feedback I get from my players, and I think more now than I ever have.
And Coach, I think that's important. What you kind of created a culture there at UAlbany, is being able to, not necessarily an open door policy, but hey, like, I'm here for you to be able to express, hey, if there's something coming up, or, hey, I'm here to help you out and here to communicate, I'm not a closed door off. And, it's not, there's a lot of things, hey, this is how we're going to do it. But there's also things, hey, how is this coming across, or other things. I think there's communication, like Coach Davis says. I think anything, a key to a successful organization is, step one is communication, and being able to communicate, for whether you're, like you coached at the top here, and then to the bottom scalp, the last person on the depth chart. I think communication through that entire way, I think is so important. And again, whether it's football or life, or even just, going out and creating relationships and being able to communicate. And I think that's what makes, creating our culture so well, is that we're able to communicate and be open with each other and not kind of closed off.
I'll tell you a great little story about listening to everybody. When I was at Duquesne, we had lost our star quarterback, graduated, and next camp we had two guys fighting for the job. And I went around the room and the coaching staff and said, hey guys, give me your vote who you think the starting quarterback should be, because it was really tight and we just were struggling. And everybody went around and so 5 coaches said one player, another 5 coaches said the other quarterback. And in the back corner was one of my grad assistants, right? And he was laying on a sofa with his feet up, like he wasn't paying attention, right? And I look over to him and I said, what's your opinion? You're the tiebreaker. And he said, I don't understand why no one said Neil Lobig. He hasn't even been given a chance to earn the job. And I went, you know what? You're 100% right. For the next 5 practices, Neil Lobig's going to be with the ones. We're going to see how he does. So Neil Lobig went out, won the job, and in his career at Duquesne, he threw for over 10,000 yards and over 100 touchdowns. Because that guy in the back of the room had the courage to speak up, and it made sense to me. So every voice does matter. And if you listen to everybody, it's the only person I can't listen to all the time is Maison. But other than that, I do get good feedback. But you should listen to all angles, because sometimes that's why I say there's so many times when I'm talking to one of the players and they say something to me and it really resonates. And then they may not know it, but that thing starts to get instituted over the next practice or the next whatever we're doing, So, yeah, I think gathering information and thinking about information is important, whether you act on it or not, but it's good to hear it.
I think so too. I think that's what I've learned a little bit in being a leader on the team, or just even working in business or other things with internships and talking with different people, is being able to, I think the best leaders out there, it doesn't matter what title you are, where you are, a position in the company or whatever it is. I want to hear your feedback, because everyone, like I said, everyone has a different angle on how they do things, or even how they interpret things. And they might, I think sometimes, I think on our team a little bit, not every question is a great question. Sometimes on our team, there's a couple guys where it's like, oh man, what are you thinking? First of all, but it's whatever. But I think for the most part, 95% of the time, any question or any idea is a fantastic idea. But as we switch gears here, Coach, as we look upon the season coming in here, as we're about to head into camp here, we're going to end up playing, the hardest schedule that we've ever played here at UAlbany. Coach, what do you think your expectation is for the team? Of course, win every game and make the playoffs and win the CAA first goal, and then work our way through there. But what do you think, your expectation is the team and as you set up our schedule, which I think is going to be a fun one.
Yeah. I had said to the coaches and I said to some of the players that I'm not sure this isn't the hardest schedule anybody's played at Albany, period, in any sport. We're very challenged this year, and I love it. I've always loved playing in tough schedules. When I was a high school coach, I scheduled the hardest teams I could schedule my teams against. When I was at Duquesne, we were scheduling scholarship programs and we didn't have scholarships. So I've always believed in challenging the program. And when this opportunity presented itself, to play North Dakota State in the opener, I jumped at it, because I think, they've been a great football program, the number one program over the last 10 years. And what better place to go play, for us and our team. And I'm excited. I can't wait to get going. Little known, when I took the job, I literally had a contract with the University of Pittsburgh like a week, 2-3 weeks later. It started because that was something I wanted to do, but I scheduled it out a little bit so we could grow into that type of schedule. I think we've grown into this type of schedule. But when you play in our league and at the level of competition in the CAA is the best in the country, top to bottom, no question. Anybody can beat you. Very few leagues in the country, maybe the SEC has that concept, but we have that in the CAA. We got to play a challenging schedule. So my expectations, you say win. I never worry about winning. I just worry about playing well. If we play well and we play our style, I believe we can beat anybody on our schedule, and that's not going to change. So that's my only expectation, is we prepare well and play our best, and I think that we'll have a great year. And I think that it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm just thinking, Coach, how fun do you think it's going to be, if we sit back, and possibly a little bit either on the day after or the week after, whatever, and be like playing in the Fargo Dome or playing in the Carrier Dome. The Carrier Dome has so much kind of history behind it, all the basketball games, NCAA tournaments, the Fargo Dome, kind of just, it's unlike anybody other in Fargo. There's nothing else to do on a Saturday in Fargo, North Dakota. First of all, there's nothing to do in North Dakota. It's all flat land.
I'll tell you what they can do is play football.
Oh, they can play football.
Oh yeah, they play football.
What was kind of an interesting thing is, so where I grew up in Minnesota, the powerhouse that my family lived in, like usually 2 or 3 guys of their top players, they were big time recruited by North Dakota, and they were probably FBS guys, but it was in Minnesota, so they didn't necessarily get the kind of the hype or the all the ratings or whatever that
right.
That other people go to, and so they would recruit. And then the funny thing is, when I moved next to Omaha, Nebraska, it was a very similar situation, and a lot of the guys there also got recruited to play North Dakota. So I think I know of
North Dakota State.
North Dakota State. Yeah. And so I know like 3 or 4 guys who, who I went to, or who was either a class above me or class below me, who I know of them.
Really?
A real kind of not really a relationship, but I know of them and have kind of seen them actually grow, following them on social media and stuff. And it's actually kind of cool as it's coming kind of full circle around, moving at different places, and you get to see all these people grow. And I think it's really cool to be able to say, oh, hey, I knew you since you were like, 10 years old, or all this other stuff. And I think it comes back to me as it's such a small world.
Yeah.
I bet you come across that a lot when it comes to coaching, whether you've been on a staff or you've came in contact or networked with somebody within the coaching staff or the coach in general. Do you think, so as we dive in, switch a little gears here, is, what would you give any advice to any coach who's possibly looking to get into, whether it's college, high school, or even any sort of coach? What advice would you give them based on your experience that you've been through? Because you've pretty much done it at just about every level.
Yeah. I think working hard and doing what you love is the most important. I never worried about levels. When I was coaching high school, I loved it. When I was coaching Duquesne, I loved it. I loved it at Pitt in Maryland, and I love it at Albany. I mean, I just like coaching. And I think people get into things for the wrong reasons. If you're trying to get in and you want to make $1 million because Nick Saban makes $7 million a year, it's great. But there's like 4 jobs in the country like that, And so if you're passionate and love what you're doing, and which generally college coaches and high school coaches do, I think that you just be happy with where you're at and you're making an impact on kids. I tell coaches all the time, no one has a bigger impact on kids in my mind than high school coaches. Like I wanted to be a high school coach my whole life. I just, I was in law enforcement. I couldn't stay. I had to make a decision. So I think that people do things for the wrong reasons. They want to be at the highest level. Of course you want to be at the highest level. But if you got a good job and you're making an impact and you're happy and your family's happy, then make it work. And if you get a break and things take off for you, great. I've watched, one of the best people I know in this business is Jeff Hafley, who's the head coach at Boston College right now, was a UAlbany assistant coach for many years, worked with us at Pitt. Great young coach, great human being. He had a rocket ship to the job at, he was a GA when I was at Pitt, and I'm happy for him because he's such a great human being and a great person that he hit the track right and it worked for him. But most jobs don't work like that. Most things, you start at the bottom and you grind your way up, and someday you get a supervisory job, whatever it might be. And so my advice to young coaches is work hard and know and love what you're doing, and don't worry about the next job. It'll take care of itself. Just keep working and working and working.
Yeah, Coach, you touched a little bit on it. But just to reiterate, what is your favorite part of being able to be a coach and, and make an impact on so many lives? Like, think about like every year, 20 guys leave, about 20 guys leave, and 10, 15, 20 guys leave, and about another 20 come back, on the team. What is your favorite part about being, a coach?
It's funny. there's so many things I could say about that. The one thing that I would tell you now as an older coach that I think is the most amazing thing is, and it's you're going to laugh, but it's Facebook, because I love being on Facebook and seeing all my former players that have me as on their Facebooks. I love seeing their progress and what they're doing in their jobs. I love to see their kids as they're growing up. I have this group of guys from 1988, 89 at Seton LaSalle, to all the way up to you on my Facebook page somewhere. And so like, I can't tell you how much I enjoy that, to see the success that so many of the guys I've had been part of their lives, and they've been part of my life, my family's life. And I could sit here and go down a long, long list of it, but there's so many of them, but I always think there's a young man named, one of the guys is Bill Green. I recruited him out of Northgate High School. We didn't have anybody wanted him. He came to Duquesne, became, he's from a very, kind of middle-class family. And now Billy, like, he's a successful businessman. He's got a bunch of kids, his beautiful home. And I love seeing, Mike Orsi and all these guys I coached all these years, through all the places I've been. That's what I think I like the most. Now, at this age, looking back at it, is this, to be a part of that and see it, to be called coach by such quality people. I love that.
I think that's kind of heartwarming, Coach. I think that's kind of cool. I'm serious. That is kind of heartwarming to see. Like, I think, I'm at a younger age, but I could see how that's kind of just so surreal or so cool to see people develop. Like I have, like, Luke and Eli, my little brothers, being able to see them from when they were first born to, where they're at, like, right now, even just a short 10 years, of their short life. But I can't imagine seeing like 30, 20 years of being able to see that and grow with their families. I think that would be something that sounds pretty awesome. I don't think you can really anybody can't take that away from you, because again, they were part of your life, you're a part of theirs. And that's something I think that, if I were to get in coach, I think that would be something that would be really cool to me, be able to impact, maybe I had a very little impact, but I made some sort of impact to lead them to where they're at today.
It brings back, the cool thing is it brings back all these good memories too. I like I said, I could literally just go on and on and on about all these guys I have on Facebook, and I wish I had more of them. I'm wide open to have my former players on there, because the one negative of it is they always were messing with me. There's always a little shot in there once in a while from these guys, one of my favorite things is when I go back to Pittsburgh, we usually get together with a lot of the Duquesne guys and the Seton LaSalle guys. Some of them are of the same. We get together at a place in the south side of Pittsburgh. And I love that night when I do that, because it's just so much fun. And some of the memories, like, you can't even imagine, like, they remember so many things that I guess I did or supposedly did. But it's just, I just laugh, because it's, some of the things they come up with. And me, I'm sarcastic and try to be funny. Yeah. And I say that I don't remember half the stuff I say to guys. So, something I said to one of them, and they'll say, Coach, you remember the time that you yelled this at us when we weren't doing well on the field? And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't remember that. Sounds like me, so they remember all the runs and the lifts and the big wins and the tough losses. But through it all, there's just, there's so many of them. That's what at this age and this part of my career, I think social media is, sometimes I think it might be the end of society, but it also is one of the great things that we have, if utilized properly, to be able to just keep in touch with so many people that I could never keep in touch with if I didn't have that platform.
Yeah, I think so. I think the purpose of social media, like the main purpose, I think has been fantastic, where it's kind of gone off in other avenues. That's a different conversation. I don't think it's gone to the greatest way. But Coach, you've been in this business a long time, and we talk a little bit about social media, how recruiting, even with this COVID, but prior to COVID, how recruiting has gone so social media or Twitter wise, how have you seen kind of recruiting kind of evolve over the years? If you've been to all these different places and to where it is kind of now, how different, completely different it is to even when you were playing, at Penn State, getting recruited by Penn State, how different that is.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, I remember when I was getting recruited, I was blessed to be recruited by a bunch of places. And back in those times, you couldn't watch television at night because your phone would just ring all night. You know what I mean? Like every coach is trying to call you. Now you get text messages, you can multitask, and it doesn't really disrupt your life. But back then, I'd sit to watch a show and then phone would ring. My mother would say, "It's Coach so-and-so from so-and-so university. Get on the phone." They got you on the phone for 30 minutes. You hang up, you go over. You know what I mean? Like I didn't go to class. I didn't even go to class back then, hardly my senior year, my first semester. And it showed up in my grades. But it was, it was so different because it had to be a personal interaction. Social media has changed all that, not just Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff, but also text messaging and all that has really dramatically changed recruiting. Coaches that are older than me will tell you the same story. You'd be driving down the street and you're in Cincinnati, Ohio. You have your map out on the passenger side trying to figure out where a school is, and you got to pull off the road and put 50 cents or 25 cents in a phone booth, which you probably don't even know what a phone booth is.
I know.
And then you'd have to, but then you physically would have to stop and call a kid at 3:00 from the roadside, but that's the way life was in recruiting, and I think it's changed video access to us. Huddles, like the revolutionary thing in recruiting right now, being able to watch kids. So there's a lot of things that make recruiting more accessible for coaches and everybody. And it's a great thing, but it also, it makes it, now you got way more guys to talk to, but it's changed dramatically and new rules are going to change it even more.
Yeah. Do you think it's changed probably for the better, being able to access those people and be able to communicate, if you're interested in a player, being able, on social media, whether you're able to DM them or they have their number on there, where you're able to text them, and do you think that's kind of easier for that and being able to, it's easier to evaluate film because it's everywhere. So, you can see it, you can pull it up anywhere you have internet or do whatever and show people and show coaches and stuff like that. Do you think that's probably for the better then?
I do. I think all in all, for everybody, recruiting it's a challenge as always. It's relative in the sense that everybody has the same technology. It'd be different if one had and the other didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. I think I can pull up pretty much any high school kid I want and watch his tape. And I think the ability to use social media and the access with text messaging and thing is what can really separate a great recruiter from an average recruiter. I can remember before they outlawed text messaging, when we first started text messaging, I would go to the mall with my daughters were young and my wife, and to spend time with my family. And we would go to the mall and eventually slither away and get a coffee and start an 8-10 person text message chain with my recruits. And I'd spend, an hour with them that way. So it was a chance for me to spend time with my family, which I wouldn't normally have, but yet still have a great impact talking to kids on text message. So that, I was able to utilize that in many ways to help myself. But yeah, coaches have just this incredible access to the kids right now, and vice versa. You have the ability now to know all about Albany when you were a kid, and when we were recruiting you in high school, you have access to our backgrounds. You have access to the university website. You have access. So yeah, I think information is a positive thing for everybody.
I think so too. I think it's better for all parties, because I think, if I'm interested in a school, I can find you on Twitter or wherever it is, and I can DM you or shoot you, or if you have your phone out there, or shoot you an email, do all these things to, whether you're recruiting me or not. If I'm interested in the school, I think it's kind of like a little bit of a kind of swinging door where it's able to go one way and the other. And I think it's only for the better. And I think it'll get as we go, last subject here, Coach, how's recruiting like for COVID and dealing with, this is probably the hardest question you're going to have all day for you, Coach, but how is it like recruiting and being able to, bring in recruits, but also now everyone has an extra year, and keeping them and doing whatever. How difficult and how tough was that on you? Because at the end of the day, you're the head guy. You're probably making just about the final decision on just about everyone.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, the way we do it here is I have final say on everything. I don't ever want one of my coaches to feel that they made a mistake on a kid, or a kid didn't pan out, or a kid had problems, or a kid's a superstar and that guy has 8. So I make all those decisions, good or bad. They're all on my shoulders. And I have to do some, I have to have hard conversations sometimes with players. It's not easy. COVID, obviously, first I would say this about COVID. It's been difficult, but nowhere near as difficult as most people in the world have had it with it
100%.
Or in our country. So I hate talking about our little problems as football coaches and athletes, but in our world, it's been a challenge that I just haven't seen. And there's nothing that can prepare you for it. And the worries that we have every day for the health of our players, our coaches, that, recruiting was dramatically different. And I mean, I just met some of our freshmen, actually shook their hand, like that's something that is unheard of in recruiting and in football. So, I pray that we're able to get out of this and get back to a sense of normalcy. It's certainly not done. But it's not, there really was nothing positive in it that you could learn from. Usually adversity, you come out of adversity and say, okay, I learned how to handle something. I just hope that we never have to obviously deal with something like this again, athletically, or certainly as a country. It's just not, there's just no positives in it that I can find. Now, the one positive I would say was, it was joyous seeing you guys when you got back, and I think we as coaches all felt that, and I think our wives were really happy when you guys came back so they could get us out of the house a little bit. You don't know what it's like to be boxed up with a coach that's not coaching. It's no fun for our families. So, but yeah, it was a unique and experience that I hope that we don't all have to go through again, because it was difficult and continues to be.
I think, hopefully soon we can get back to, at least we're trending in the right direction to normalcy.
Absolutely.
And that's
right.
the positive to take out of it right now is, hey, we're trending in the right direction, and hopefully sooner than later, hey, we'll be back to normal and we'll get ready to go. But Coach, I really appreciate you coming on the TO show. And I know you're very busy, but again, this was awesome being able to talk to you and, and doing all these things. I think the next step is I got to get Coach Mish on to get him on as well and have a awesome conversation. But Coach, I appreciate you coming on, and it was honestly an awesome conversation to have with you.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and maybe you should have me and Coach Mish at dinner some night together, and while we're eating, because although he's skinny right now, I saw him.
Coach Mish has been losing some weight. I see
saw
Coach Mish.
him,
Hey, shout out to Coach Mish. Keep grinding, Coach. I see you.
I saw him on Facebook, and I saw that he's lost a lot of weight. So I'm happy. He's a great one. I love Coach
Mish. He's a character, and he's a little bit like you, Coach. He's a teddy bear inside. He might be a little bit harder on the outside, but he's a teddy bear inside. I love it.
No, he is. He's a good one. You had a great one to work with there. So,
but again,
all right.
Thanks,
Coach.
I appreciate you coming on.
No problem. Thanks, man.